right, welcome class to our last science section. Side Earth. We'll be covering this for the next 3 weeks, so we're going to jump right into it. Okay, have one lesson a week. Each week you'll have your apply science concepts that follow each chapter, and then within each chapter there are checkpoints that we'll cover, and I'll point those out as we. So let's jump in and have you follow along with me. And as always, a good thing to do when we first get a new book is to look at cover, which I don't have, but you should have, and table of contents, what this book is going to be about. And so as we look at our table of contents, we can see what some of these sections are. There are three. Our first section is what is Earth made of? So we'll learn what the Earth is made of. Next section that we cover next week will be how does Earth change? And then our last section will be what are volcanoes, and that's kind of what we're going to be covering. And this is talking about building reading skills, which we've talked about and just barely did, talking about leading table of contents, headings, captions, other features, help us know where we're going, as it says, on a journey going through the book. Right here, the very second paragraph says the title, front cover, and table of contents. That gives us a good thing. Okay, so let's jump into this first week's section. What is Earth made of? Make a connection. Earth's land has steep cliffs, rolling hills, tall mountains, flat plains. All of them. Do you think the ocean floor has similar characteristics? So if we were to go in the ocean, do you think we'd be able to see all mountains, and flat areas, hills, and cliffs? I think we would. I think a lot that we see on Earth's surface is actually happening beneath the ocean. All right, so our first section of our first three sections. So our first third, first little section, our first Earth's layers. Follow along with me. The distance to the center of our planet is more than 6,300 kilometers, almost 4,000 miles. Imagine you invented a machine that allowed you to travel deep inside Earth. What would you discover on your journey? You would probably observe that Earth is composed of rock and metals, and that the temperature of the materials inside Earth increases the deeper you go. So it gets hotter the closer to the center we get. Earth has three main layers: the crust, the mantle, and the core. The relatively thin outermost layer of Earth consists of solid rock. The outside layer consists of mostly solid rock, which is the crust. And I just want to pause really quick because we've come to this layer called the crust. As you can see that it's a bold word. And so that is showing us that this is a vocabulary word. So remember that you also have to do, one of your assignments is to do the Inside Earth vocabulary. And you can find the definitions and use the definitions from the book. Do not Google the definitions. Using the definitions from the book help me as your teacher know that you are actually getting into the book. Okay, so we just barely read about the solid rock. This layer, called the crust, covers Earth's entire surface. Almost 3/4 of the crust lies beneath the water of the oceans. Interesting. A large area of crust that is visible above the surface of the ocean is called a continent. We can see this continent right here, and this is a part of Earth's crust, but most of it is beneath this blue area, which is the ocean and seas, right? The blue planet. Scientists who study Earth have identified two main types of crust: continental crust and ocean crust. Continental crust, as its name suggests, is the crust that the continents are composed of. Ocean Oceanic crust makes up the deep ocean floor. Continental crust is thicker and lighter or less dense than oceanic crust. I wonder if because it's less dense, that's why it's on top. Or it goes, yeah, it's above the water. Under the crust is another layer of rock called the mantle. Some of the rock in the mantle flows extremely slowly. This occurs because the temperature is high there, and the rock is under extreme pressure from the rock above. And we can look at this caption to the left that is helping us describe these Earth's layers, where they are, and about how thick they are. So we have the crust, that is about 40 to 56 miles thick. The mantle, which is 1,800 miles thick. And then we have the core, which is divided in two sections. The outer core, right here, this yellow part, is about 1,370 miles thick, so even thicker than the mantle. And the inner core is about 780 miles thick, so not as thick as the outer core or the mantle, but thicker than the crust. The crust is the thinnest, just like thin crust pizza. So beneath the mantle at the center of Earth is the core. Earth's core is composed mostly of the metals iron and nickel. The core has two main regions, the outer core, which is liquid, and the inner core, which is solid. The core is the hottest part of the Earth. In fact, some studies show that the core should be as hot or hotter than the surface of the sun. Wow, that's pretty intense. And then here is your first checkpoint, which will be labeled Earth's Layers Checkpoint. And then you're supposed to explain how Earth's layers differ from one another. And we just went through that about the crust, mantle, and the core. So explain the differences between those three. All right, our next section, Earth's surface. People have long been interested in landforms, which are neutral features on Earth's surface, and the process that shaped them. 4 types of landforms are mountains, valleys, plains, and plateaus, and we've talked about this already. A mountain is a landform that is much higher than the surrounding area. You can look at this picture really quick and see a mountain. A valley is a low area of land between mountains or hills. So right here is the valley. On the sides, which is the valley walls, and this is the valley floor. The valley walls are made out of mountains or hills. A plain is a wide, flat area of land, and a plateau is flat like a plain, but is much higher than the surrounding area. So down here would be the plain or the valley, as it's surrounded by mountains, and then here's a plateau, which is flat, but it's raised. You see these cliffs. All right, so much of Earth's rocky surface is beneath the oceans, but even under the water, there are many landforms. So we're going to learn about some of the landforms beneath the water. Gentle slopes, flat plains, tall mountains, and deep valleys all could be found on the ocean floor. The gently sloping underwater edge of a continent is called the Continental Shelf. So if we pause really quick, here's the gentle sloping of the land above the water. This is the Continental Shelf. Continental shelves vary in size. Some are small and are only about 10 kilometers or about 6 miles wide. Other continental shelves are larger and can be nearly 1,200, or you can pronounce that 1,200s, right? 1,200 kilometers, which is about 745 miles wide. At the edge of a continental shelf, the land drops off sharply, becoming a steep incline called the continental slope. So looking at this, the continental shelf and the continental slope, what landform is this similar to that we just read about a minute ago? I'll give you a hint. It's not a mountain or a valley. What does this look like? What do you think, Scotland? I know some of you guys are probably saying it looks like a plateau, huh? All right, so continue to read this last line right here on the left side. Sediment, which includes small bits of rock and other materials, is deposited at the bottom of the continental slope. The buildup of sediment creates a landform known as a continental rise. Right here. At the Continental Rise, the land begins to flatten out. See how it's really steep, and then it starts flattening out. And then we're going to get into this next landform. A large portion of the deep ocean floor consists of very wide, flat areas of land called the Abyssal Plains. So what does the Abyssal Plain look like? It's surrounded by a hill or a mountain, and it's flat. Those that are saying it, it looks like a valley. Good job. A thick layer of sediment covers these vast plains. Scientists have discovered that a chain of mountains called the mid-ocean ridge rises from the ocean floor. So the ocean floor has mountains, winding about Earth for about 70,000 kilometers, which is about 43,500 miles. The mid-ocean ridge is Earth's largest mountain chain. Hot molten rock from Earth's mantle travels up through a deep center valley or rift in the mid-ocean ridge. So right here, this is the start of the mid-ocean ridge, right here. This is the end of it. So new oceanic crust is created when this molten rock cools and hardens. In some locations on the ocean floor, hot molten rock rising up through the crust has produced underwater volcanoes called seamounts. So right here is a seamount. And let's notice that it says right here in the bottom, this diagram is not to scale, meaning these seamounts could be a larger or even smaller than this. Some seamounts have flat tops while others have sharp peaks. These look like they have sharp peaks. A seamount, and remember a seamount is an underwater volcano, rises above the surface of the water, is known as a volcanic island. So if this seamount gets really large and comes up above the water, it is known as a volcanic island. The Hawaiian Islands are examples of volcanic islands. Some areas of the ocean floor have very deep valleys called trenches. The deepest trench is the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean. And here is a picture of a trench or a diagram. The deepest spot in this trench is about 10.9 kilometers or about 6.8 miles below the surface of the ocean. Okay. And here is your last checkpoint for this first section, which is explain what a landform is and name 4 types. All right, and we've done that previously, so I'm sure you guys can crush that. So this is a cool picture right here. Let's read this caption together. It says, scientists sometimes use robots to explore the deep ocean. So we don't have men or humans going down to explore. We're using these robots to go very deep and to explore the deep ocean. Pretty cool. And the last thing for this section is your apply science concept. And so I'm pretty sure instead of doing you can create a poster if that's easier. Let me read it first and then I can give you guys some help how to do this. So it says with your classmates, but since we're remote, just with yourself, create a poster showing photographs of Earth's landforms. Your photographs should be examples that should include mountains, valleys, plains, and plateaus. Label the landforms and tell where on Earth they are located. So if you find a mountain that is located in Utah, you should say mountain located in Utah, or if it's like Salt Lake, Utah, all right? So you can either create a physical poster and take a picture and upload it, or you can make a poster on your computer, on your Chromebook or your iPad, and then just upload it by just copy and pasting pictures from the internet. Whatever would be more fun and enjoyable and easier for you, you are able to do. Excuse me. But that is it for our first section, which is what is Earth made of? Okay. And I will see you guys, I will see you guys in the next section.